hey, welcome. We're glad you're here with Pastor Wayne Bray. There's nothing better than just sitting around chatting with you on a Wednesday afternoon. So
we're
how
glad
you doing?
you're here, Josh.
Hey, yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Scale of 1 to 10, how was Josh's introduction?
Amazing.
Yeah, it was 11.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
11.
Well, anyway.
11? Wow.
Anyway, we are live on the Charge On podcast, and Josh Bradley has introduced us. That was the third introduction.
Who is Josh Bradley, Dallas?
Josh Bradley is my best friend and personal confidant in all things life. No, he is
the new Harrison Bridge campus.
That's the answer
right.
you were looking for. My bad. I thought you were going personal. No, you are my best friend, though.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you saying. At least one of us could say that.
And the new teaching pastor at Harrison Bridge. Yes. You've been there for what, like 7 days?
I've been there for 7 years.
7 years.
As
six or seven.
As
as
a attender and member, and our family has invested our lives there. You know,
I was actually your pastor.
You were my pastor. You were.
Yeah.
It was great.
It's kind of a miracle you stayed this long.
Dude, I don't know. We still miss you from time to time.
I don't know that
I
don't know that I've had an encourager in my ministry like Josh Bradley, though. When
he is an encourager.
I would get done preaching.
He didn't say as great of an encourager. He hasn't had an encourager like me.
Yeah. I would get done preaching, and Josh Bradley would be like, "Man, you're such a good preacher," and I'm like, "You're actually putting it on too strong." Now.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we're glad.
It got uncomfortable for a while.
Yeah.
Wayne said, Josh, you need to slow down.
Hey, we're glad you're here, man. I'm glad to have you on the conversation. Yeah. And today's going to be an interesting conversation on the Charge On podcast. For all those listeners, we are back after a couple weeks hiatus. Pastor Wayne was doing some traveling, some church work traveling. Like
not vacation.
Itinerant evangelist kind of deal.
Conferences and getting poured into.
Had a church planting assessment that our church, and I didn't really know this, but a planter is not the only one assessed. So a sending church has to go through an assessment process.
For will.
Yeah. So we're officially a sending church approved by the North American Mission Board.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's great.
It was, listen, while you were there, I got texts from some of the guys on the team. They were telling me, like, man, we love you so much and we're so excited about you.
Cool.
And our church coming on to be a send church for him is very, very cool. But those guys are doing a great work at Send North America.
For sure.
It's really unbelievable.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and so now that we're back off of our 2-week hiatus, this is, I'm sad to report, the last podcast of the semester, though. We're going to take the summer off and give everybody a little break from having to hear from us on Sunday and Wednesday. You just had to hear from us on Sunday. But we wanted to do something special for the listeners today, particularly special after this past Sunday when Pastor Wayne, you preached a vision message to our church. It was different than some vision messages you've done in the past because we actually just stayed right where we're at in Ephesians, and the text was so appropriate. But you preached and you just kind of laid out where we're at as a church. You know, man, praise God, things have been so good in the past. Things we're hopeful for the future, but there is like a level of participation we need from the church body. And so what I thought would be a really interesting concept is if we just kind of approach today on this podcast and did a State of the Church podcast. So what I'd really like for us to do to the people listening is like, let's just inform them about maybe some questions they may have had from your sermon, questions they would like to go a little bit deeper on, and let's just challenge people with how they can get involved and be a part of what's next. I think an interesting way to do this, Pastor Wayne, we've actually got the perfect people here to do it with. Let's look at the last 5 years of our church. So over the past 5 years, God's just really blessed us in a massive way. Let's look at the last 5 years. And Dustin, man, you're here and you are so prone to speak to that, have seen God do such a great work.
Sure. You talk a lot.
I'm prone to speak.
Yeah, you're positioned. You're positioned to speak in it.
I didn't know what he meant.
I'm a master of the English language.
Yes, you are.
From where?
What version? Yeah. And then Josh, you're in position, prone to speak into the next 5 years as the newest teaching pastor on staff. And then Pastor Wayne, just hopefully you can kind of fill in some gaps and challenge people after Sunday. So that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, sounds great.
So let's talk about the last 5. And Josh, oddly enough, you could even speak into the last 5 as as a congregant, as a member of our church, who's just been, not in the pulpit, but in the pews, so to speak, as you guys think over the last 5 years, 5 years just coming out of COVID, the COVID year, so 2020, the world shuts down. Politically, a lot of things happen. The world loses its mind. But really, that's about the time that, things started blowing up at Upstate Church. When you look back on the last 5 years, what are some particular moments or things that God has done that really just stick in your mind as a blessing?
What do you think, D?
Yeah, I think for me, golly, in some ways it seems like it was 10 years ago. So it's hard to believe that in 5 years all that God has done. Because coming out of COVID, personally with the Five Forks campus, everything was going so good. And then COVID hit, and then we get back, and it's like, okay, I think our first service back, we had like 3 services with 45 people. And it just felt like, what in the world? But you're right, Dallas, like that was a turning point for us, because in the last 5 years, what I would say excites me of what God's doing and where he's going to take us in the next 5 years is the campus expansion. Yeah. For us to see the growth and the health of Five Forks to where it's at today, but then you have the launch of Anderson, Malden, Haywood, Fountain Inn. It just continues. And then we have our gatherings and now Campus Lawrence and Union. It's just crazy to see God's favor in those things. Yeah. And not to say that we've done it perfect, but, like we're reaching the Upstate.
I want to ask you this, and then I want to ask you for an outside perspective. But you said just 5 years is the thing that sticks out is just all that God's done, just blessing and it blown up. If somebody came up to you and said, Pastor Wayne, and this happens to you all the time, you talk to pastors on Zoom calls a couple times a week.
Yep.
I think that's a really interesting thing that you do that probably a lot of people don't know, that you pour back into other people asking questions.
But talked to one this morning.
Yeah, people come and they ask you questions. Pastor Wayne, Upstate Church is running 5,000 people, and in 2021, y'all are running 2,000 people. When they ask you why, like, what are the reasons you give them? Like, what are the answers you give for what God's done?
So a lot of what we've done is just kept doing what we've always done. So, I really don't have great answers that usually people get frustrated a little bit. But, I can point to stuff like I pointed to Sunday. I do think I've always emphasized unity of the body. I don't think, without unity of the body, body's not healthy. And you don't want to multiply or reproduce something that's unhealthy. So, some of the principles that I've had for 30 years just honestly have always been healthy growth. Churches I've been at have grown. I've never been a part of a church that didn't grow. And that's not like bragging. That's saying by God's grace, I've never been in a bad situation like that. And God has put us in healthy-ish churches every time.
Right.
And then they just become healthier. And so but I think health is like foundational.
Yeah.
And a lot of churches think, where's my silver bullet? What's the easy pass? What's the,
magic button?
If I could just change this, then we'd start growing. And they don't think about like the fundamental things of like people actually loving each other, caring for each other. So anyway, a lot of that, I feel like first 4 or 5 years here were really more like every ministry I've ever been a part of. And that was just consistent growth. We grew nothing like from 21 to 26, And so, I think that, those just practical, actually doing ordinary things and following the Lord in ordinary obedience consistently without stopping over time produces extraordinary results.
Yeah.
I do think that's true. And the problem with most people is even when they get to where we are right now, it's so tempting to stop.
Right.
And settle and just be like, we're good.
We're good.
And we'll be happy. Nobody will complain. Let's just keep doing good. And so I feel like not being happy with that, not being satisfied with any point. Because you could be happy at 200, 400, 1,000, whatever, Yeah,
we talked about this past week. One of the greatest, we heard a preacher say, the greatest threat to any thriving church is just complacency.
Yeah.
The greatest is just to say we're good. We can rest a little bit now, but the mission doesn't rest. The mission's always there. Josh, I'm somewhat interested in how you would answer this question. So we asked Pastor Wayne, what do you you say is the reason why. Until recently, I would say you were as involved in our church as anybody could be as a lay member, right? You were somebody who was plugged in, who was invested in the mission, also close and connected with the pastors. But from
preached a couple times a year.
For sure.
At least.
I remember the first time you preached at an Upstate Church, bro. It was so good. You told this story about how you never wanted to be a ballerina because you didn't think you had the figure for it, and that was hilarious.
It was.
Why was that hilarious?
It was hilarious.
I don't know. I'm wondering the same thing.
I know. That's where Dallas got saved.
I'm picturing Josh in spandex.
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Cut to B-roll.
Hey,
Jonathan.
when as an outsider though, somebody who
I can't get it out of my mind now. Oh,
It's burned. It's burned in my brain.
I do not have you in spandex in my mind, and I'm not going to. It's not going to happen.
This is why I'm here. It's what I'm bringing to the team.
But maybe for a Christmas card or something, we can
It's
get
on,
that
it's on,
worked out.
it's on the docket.
Hey, as somebody who is a layman, right? Not a staff member, like a congregate. From a congregate's perspective, like what was the reason for the way God was blessing us as a church?
Well, I've said this for a long, long time. I always have appreciated Pastor Wayne and his leadership, and what I mean in particular by that, when we first came here, Dallas, you were the first guy we met from the church. And then we find out, here's the church. And I knew a little bit about that because of the role I was in at the time, working in a denominational role. And just seeing how all that worked from the inside, I began to learn more and more about the culture. And I think there's something unique about our culture here, having a leader like Pastor Wayne, who I've never seen him promote himself one time. And he surrounds himself with people who are incredibly talented, and I always see him promoting them. And that was a unique thing for me to see. It just wasn't something that I was accustomed to. And I think that built a culture to where you have a lot of people attracted to want to be a part of a team like that, to want to follow a leader like that. And then the other thing is there was always a consistency about the mission. Like we're always talking about where we're going as a church, and that everything we were ever involved in seemed to be incredibly consistent. And I think that language constantly in front of people helped motivate people towards something bigger than just filling up a room. And that was the second thing. The third thing I would say is if you look around at how many young leaders we have, it's uncanny. All of us will sit on the front row of the campuses that we pastor, and we'll watch a 22-year-old guy preach almost every month.
Right.
Yep.
And that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. You
And
gotta
the congregation loves it.
and they love it. In fact, I was talking to one of them last week about, what he was going to do, and I was like, man, our people, they look at you like their grandson or their son or their nephew. Like you just become part of their family. And I had one of them tell me this past week, Landon preached down at Harrison Bridge. And I had more than one person stop me and go, hey, who was that guy? He was really, really good.
That's right.
And I secretly wanted to say, do you think he's better than me?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, don't tell me if you do.
Don't tell me.
Then I want to know.
Yeah.
But no, I'm joking. But I mean, we do have a lot of talented young preachers, and I think when you see young leaders, they want to be part of the environment. You got to start asking yourself why. I think it's because we have a healthy culture led by a healthy leader with a strong vision.
I think they're to like maybe put something tangible with some of the things you're expressing there. And you've said this in a lot of different ways over the years, but there is a biblical principle that what you hold on to, you'll automatically lose. And what you're willing to give up, God will give back. God will give to you and multiply it. And so I've seen it. That's Luke 9:23 and 24, right? Jesus says, "If anyone would come after them, deny himself." And when you hear that, that's a bad offer from Jesus. Like you're like, Jesus, you didn't. That's a categorically not a good deal. Right. But then Jesus says, "Well, let me give you the benefit of it. Whatever you keep, you'll lose. If you keep your own life, you'll lose it. But whoever gives up his life will save it."
Last first.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, we've embodied that principle, and honestly, and we're going to stop being so nice to you. Because I know this is
Stop. No.
Cue cards are helping me.
Well,
And that $20 bill. That $20 bill.
But I think this is something. This is something that had to be caught, not taught. Like you never sat me down and said, "Here's lesson number 1."
Right.
What you give.
Wax on, wax off.
Yeah. but
if it hadn't have happened,
it
I
wouldn't
do
have worked.
think God wouldn't have blessed. Because you guys were the first 2 campus pastors.
That's right.
Dustin and Dallas. And honestly, I think as much depended on y'all as me, because y'all could have responded.
Glad you didn't tell me that. It's
Yeah,
a lot of
maybe
pressure.
because I was ignorant, didn't know it.
Yeah.
But it requires both.
But you've modeled it in a couple different ways. One that's kind of unique that I think we're in such a healthy culture, we don't see it sometimes. But there are a lot of times where, particularly pastors or senior pastors, the guy who owns the pulpit, right, is protective of what is his, right? The pulpit, the reality that he's the guy who's, dropping the knowledge, so to speak, week to week. You were really selfless in that. You were like, no, I'm going to build up other people. But it's all like that biblical principle was just honored. When you gave it to Dustin, when you gave it to me, God multiplied you. The Simpsonville has been one of the fastest growing churches.
Absolutely.
But then you also did that not just in your personal, but in the practice of the church. So you really told people, like when we launched another campus, go. If you go to another church, another campus, you're not going to another church. You're doing me a favor. I'm still your pastor. Go.
You're believing in the vision that I'm casting.
And so, but every time I feel like you did that, all God did was replace what was sin at Simpsonville.
Yeah,
man.
And so, like, there's this principle. If people will say, "Well, what's the reason?" There seems to be like we just chose to believe God, and I think it progressively worked its way out in each staff member. Each staff member progressively chose to believe that if we try to build our own kingdom, we'll never do it. But if we give it away for God and His kingdom, God will add it back, and that's been really cool to watch Him honor that.
Yeah, and I would echo that. I think we have the best team across the board, because oftentimes in ministry you can become so territorial that you end up becoming siloed in your ministry area. But every single one of our team members buy into that vision, even though we're kind of building the tracks as the train is coming, right? Yeah. And so when it was just 3 campuses, Pastor Wayne, you're saying, hey, we're going to do this, and everybody's kind of like, are we? I'm not really sure. That doesn't make sense. You're now.
Like, but okay, we're going to do that, but how are we going to do that?
Yeah, how are we going to do that? I'm just not quite sure. And man, God has shown His favor on that. And it's taken every single one of us with a do whatever it takes attitude. So I'm not any better than the person next to me,
right,
and the people in the room, and we all complement one another to move the mission forward.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Thinking about the past 5 years, all right, you can't lie. You're on podcast. You got to be honest. True.
I'm also a Christian and a pastor. So.
Yeah, but none of that matters as much.
Yeah, whatever.
Hey, at any point over the past, we've been here 8 years now. But over the past 8 years, did Pastor Wayne call you in his office and say, "Hey, did you do this?" And then I'm confessing right now. I want to know if he did it to you too. I would say, yeah, I did that for sure. He said, "Hey, don't do that again." Did that ever happen to you?
No.
I don't think it has.
Hey, I think maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
But he was like, "Hey, man, love your energy. Love how hard you're working right now." So, I was also 23 and
all right,
very
so let me
stupid.
tell you the difference. If I've done anything, it's been me going to Wayne and saying, "Hey, I just want to get in front of it. Okay. I'm sorry, I did this.
I've done that.
Yeah, I just want you to know. I'm going to confess.
I think that's called wisdom, bro. Is what that is.
He's proactive.
Yeah.
So it made me think about something. I think a link I sent you the other day. A guy was teaching about communication, and he said,
Stanford guy.
Yeah. He said, if I'm going to remember this right, he said, knowledge, practice, and talent. Knowledge, practice, and talent. All these 3 things are important, but which 2 are the priority? And he said talent is the least important.
For sure. Yeah.
And I don't know that. I'm kind of backing up on everything you just said, and I really think that my awareness of it's a self-awareness thing. And I think of a lot of pastors. This is why I always tell you I want to talk to pastors. But if pastors recognized that they don't have to be Superman, they don't.
They can't be.
No,
they can't.
Yeah.
And I just am so aware of the things I'm not great at, and God has gifted me with some stuff. And so, like, realizing what I'm knowledgeable in and what I've been gifted to do to some degree, and then practicing that, developing that, developing the things I know, if we focus on those two things, what crazy thing kind of happens? You get better, and your talent actually grows through that. And then everybody else that's talented on the team knows and practices what they're great at.
Right.
It actually is what I think one of the secret sauces that, hearing that guy articulate that made me go, "That's really good."
You said on Sunday we have 28 or 27 pastors across all of our campuses
that will preach at some point in 2026.
So they're not all pastors. Some of them will preach, though.
I'll give you one
Residents.
example. Dick Lincoln's a retired pastor at
Okay.
Shandon. He will preach at but he's not on the staff.
A ton of those are young guys
Yes.
who are in a pipeline.
Absolutely.
And my thought about that is, man, how many churches across like the state or the country would go, man, I would do anything to have that at my church.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, like the question is, would you? Because the
It'll
way
cost
you
you.
do that is you make room for
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to like your particular gifting, making room for those people on the stage with you is something that man, it's special around here. Like come here on a Wednesday night. You come here on a Wednesday night and you walk through the corridor where our students are, and you look around at guys that I still think are in high school,
Right.
And they're in charge of stuff. They have people working
Yeah.
for them. Like, I'm like, this is
And
crazy.
They're giving
So
orders.
They're giving exactly right. They're
The
telling
cool
people what
thing
to
is
do.
it's not been a mandated thing. It's a trickle-down effect to where Brandon, our student director, who has full right to rotate himself in 52 weeks a year in front of 500 students, actually lets other guys have the stage and hold the word and preach the word. He's doing it probably more than I'm doing it. And all that to say, it isn't just one or two people. It is a culture.
Yeah.
You said it's really the culture now of our church.
I'll say it again. Like when I look at the schedule, I look at the calendar, and I see you've got one of those young guys at the campus. Like Ethan, our campus life minister, like
Yeah.
he's like, hey, I'm preaching over here this week, and I'm preaching here now. And I remember being 22, and I remember thinking, nobody would have put me up in front of 500 people when I was 22. And if they would have immediately taken me down.
That's your last opportunity.
It would have been the last one. So.
And I
Josh,
think
you were
what's
not
really
called to
cool,
ministry.
and I think what's really cool is the byproduct of the growth. God's been so good, but our salvations and baptisms, obviously. Oh man! That what was the statistic
the
that you
number
shared?
that you did. Yeah.
This Sunday, we will cross 1,950 salvations and baptisms in 10 years. And that, I mean, I know there are churches that baptize a lot more than 195 a year. But you got to understand, when we came 10 years ago, we were baptizing about 100 to 115 a year. And that was normal and then COVID was like 50. And so coming out of COVID has been crazy.
Yeah.
And so, but we will this year cross 2,000 people.
All right, so
Which is really cool.
I'm gonna probably get in trouble because I want to tell a story. If that's
Okay.
just to celebrate.
It's not a 15 minutes.
You got 2.5 minutes.
I
No, I'm
got
just kidding.
2.5
Go ahead.
minutes.
Go ahead.
Put me on the clock. All right, so 2 weeks ago, I walk into the lobby and a guy I've never met before meets me in the lobby. He's in his mid-60s. And he goes, hey, I hadn't been here much, but I've heard about you. We're excited that you're here. I was like, oh, man, thanks. His wife is there, and she's been very involved. And here's what he said. He said, I haven't been here very often, but I recently got really sick. And people were visiting me almost every day in the hospital.
Wow.
A lot of our team of lay leaders
Member
and
care.
people, member care, who are doing a great job with that. And he said, I was sitting up there, and one of those guys came in and started talking to me about my faith. And I realized that I wasn't really sure about where I would spend eternity. And he said, I gave my life to Jesus in the hospital. And he said, his next line was, this guy's in his mid-60s, and I was like, I thought, oh, cool, you probably, that was awesome. Then he said, when can I get baptized?
Wow.
That's my next
That's
step.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so he's getting baptized next week.
That's
That's
amazing.
that's a
It's
crazy
amazing.
story. It's also routine. Like
It is.
not
All the
routine like
time.
we take for granted.
Yeah.
Like
Normal
when
around here.
if when we said this is going to be a state of the church, like let's just stop and pause for a second. If the state of our church is people are routinely being saved, kind of sounds like to me the state of our church is like Acts, and that God was adding to their
Yes.
number day by day.
Yes.
That's a good state to be in.
And I
For
don't want
sure.
to. I don't want to really. Y'all don't let me get off on a soapbox and run down a rabbit trail.
Hey,
I
don't
want
get off on a
I want
soapbox.
this to be positive. All right, but I routinely struggle with the perception of other people of our church.
Yeah.
because they don't know that. I mean, I don't know who they are, but
Right,
you know.
right.
But the
Who is
assumptions
they?
and perceptions made are real.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no doubt some people are 5,000 people and they immediately think all mega churches stink.
You're not personal.
There's even people who have legitimately, oddly enough, for all the people, thousands who've come, we've lost people because in some ways their mind thinks that the larger we get, the less community we have and the less they'll experience it. And it's so crazy. People are as connected, you've said this, people are as connected as they want to be. And I think if a church of 100 or a church of 5,000, you can find community and be connected. But that's what's beautiful is that one more, that dude who was in the hospital was visited every day.
Every day.
Hey,
in a church that most people would think don't visit the hospital.
Right,
and,
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
make it that one more. That one more is somebody's dad. He's somebody's grandpa.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to take the big 2,000 people who are going to be baptized this year in the past 10 years. But that each one of those is somebody who's walking with the Lord. That's a big deal.
And I don't even mind saying we're a very strange big church. I don't think we're normal because to even have the environments where I don't think people know this, but the average worship attendance in our church, worship service attendance, is around 300, under 300, I think, average.
Right.
Now, there are a couple of services that are much larger than that.
Right.
But for the most part, if you're attending one of our campuses, you're in an intimate environment where you know the people who are worshiping with you. You know them by name. You know the pastor by name. He shepherds you, cares for you. I just don't think most people know that.
Yeah.
Well, we're new at HB, and so we had a ton of people reach out. Hey, we would love to spend some time with you and your family. And most of them are something to the effect of, hey, come over and hang out with us and our group this week.
Wow.
So Sunday, we went with one of our senior adult groups. I don't know if you can call it that anymore.
Right.
What's the proper word?
Well, it's better than senior citizens.
It's better than senior citizens.
Experienced adults.
Jonathan, can you
Seasoned.
edit that maybe just a little part out? But no, they invite us over, and we come over, and there's people of all generations in that group.
Yeah.
Kids running around. We have lunch with them, spend time. And they're doing that once a month. And I got an invitation yesterday. Hey, we're meeting on Wednesday night with our group. So there's all kind of community happening. I think there's 4 or 5 of those invitations.
I got a
out there.
picture. I think, did you get it from Anderson? This Monday or
Oh,
Tuesday,
yeah.
got a
Yes.
picture from Anderson where they got challenged by the message about use your gifts. I know we'll get to that. And one of our college students at the Anderson campus took her clippers to the homeless ministry and cut homeless man's hair.
Yeah. Hey, Jonathan,
so
I'll
cool.
send you the picture of that, and you can drop it right here.
That's just showing the body of Christ doing the work of Jesus, hands and feet of Jesus. And it's not about a big service. It's not about a show. Anyway, I thank God for who we've become as a church, man.
So this is the first thing I wrote down when you preached this past week. I wrote this in the margins of my Bible here. That's been the past 5 years. By any metric, the past 5 years have been wildly successful. I would say fun for those of us who have had the chance to be a part of it, man. I think the thing that's somewhat scary to me is I'll be 32 next month. I hope that I hope that my entire ministry is like this. I hope it wasn't just a season, right? And so just being completely transparent, I wrote down in the margins, success in the past doesn't automatically ensure success in the future.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the next 5 years. And as we talk about the next 5 years, and we want to look to the church members, and we say, "Hey, man, this church is what you think it is. God's working in a powerful way, but we want to make sure that God does even more and abundantly beyond what we can think or ask in the next 5 years." What's your heart for the next 5 years? What are you praying for? What do you want people to know about what's coming next?
Yeah, I do think a lot of what we've seen happen is just not only was it not expected at the size. I expected people to get saved. I expected growth, but it has been unbelievable. I mean, I know we talk about that kind of stuff, but like exponentially greater than anything I've ever experienced in my life. And I've experienced God move in a lot of ways. Yeah. Every church I've ever been at, I loved them all, and they were all wonderful churches. Nothing like the last 5 years. Nothing even close to the growth. So a part of me, I don't know if y'all remember the staff meeting where I said after the first year of 25% growth or something, I stood up in front of them, Josh, and I was like, "Hey, I just don't want y'all to expect this is going to happen every year."
You said it may not be reasonable to think this will be every year.
I just said, 15% growth in a church is a lot. And we've always, in my ministry, if we were around 15%, that was rapid growth. You're doubling every 5 years. And we had experienced 25 or 27% growth that year. Well, I had to come back. I think I called a special total team meeting and apologized.
You did.
I
Yeah,
repented
that was great.
and I said, guys, I was wrong. If God wants to do it, He'll do it, and don't let my negative junk get in the way. Well, the Lord honored that, and legitimately, like that was probably the least we grew.
Right.
It was like 27, 32, 35%, like year over year bananas growth. So that the 9 campuses that aren't Simpsonville have grown by 280% since 2021.
Right.
That's crazy. So I want to say all that to say, I know that it's up to God. I don't think that we should automatically say that's all. That's how you define success in the mission. If God doesn't do that exactly, it doesn't mean that we aren't obedient to the Lord. And so, I mean, if somebody is watching, maybe they're like, man, I'm busting it, bro. And our church ain't grown like that. I don't think that means the pastor's a loser.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I don't want to communicate anything like that. But having said that, if somebody were to ask me, and I may not be answering your question, if someone were to say, do you think God's going to do that in the next 5 years? I'd say yes.
Yeah.
I actually don't. I don't have a reason to say no to that because all I know is right now we're in a transitional period. We've talked about this to where I feel like we're recalibrating, getting these things right. We're being good stewards because I think strategic planning is spiritual stewardship. You can write that down in the margin of your Bible too. That's good stuff.
Tweetable.
Because that's true. Most people run from strategic leadership and they try to make it not spiritual. I just think it's bad stewardship if you don't plan. So we're in the process of being strategic in our planning, and we're doing everything that does depend on us so that when we actually get back to the launching pad, which is probably 12 months away, and I mean to rapid growth, I think that's when the fuse is lit. And watch out because the wind is going to blow. We're raising the sails, and that's like you said about Augustine, and watch out.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of times I think churches will look at a church like this and think, man, wouldn't it be nice? You know, like it happened by mistake.
Right, it's an accident.
And it obviously happened because God blessed this place. But it didn't happen by accident.
No.
And it's just as, you know, we look at, okay, you've got these team of pastors and teaching pastors here. If you look at the people that aren't on the stage as much, we have a stellar team of people that don't stand in front of a microphone every week.
That's
right.
right.
If you think about having the capacity, I mean, the real question is capacity for growth. Do you have the capacity that if God did bless your church, you could actually do something? Where you know, if everybody comes to your church this Sunday, I mean, do you have a place for them to sit? You know, most people can't answer that question that we have a plan for them. But the fact that we planned for growth and we expected God to do it, I think is a big part of understanding how we continue to reach people. Because, listen, the upstate of South Carolina, as you've talked about plenty of times, is growing at a astronomical pace. And people are not thinking about, where am I going to go to church when I get there? The reason people are getting connected is through relationships.
Yeah. I do think part of what separates the next 5 years from the last 5 years is I don't believe we'll be caught by surprise this time. There was so much world change in the period where God blew. I mean, literally, I don't know if y'all remember the staff meeting, but the staff meeting where everything shut down for COVID, Brian Owens, our executive pastor of finance and operations, walked in and said, here's what I know. We have enough money to pay everybody to the end of the month.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
That's
a good one.
So I went home. I was actually
cried.
I was actually living in the small house right beside
the church office.
Right beside the office.
And Jenna, I remember Jenna was in the kitchen, and I walked in and she said, "Well, what did everybody say at the meeting?" Because she's naturally curious. Yeah. And I said, "Brian says we'll be paid to the end of the month, and after that, he doesn't know." And so we talk about being caught off guard. It's not unreasonable that wouldn't be caught off guard when there was literally no predicting the future in that moment. Yeah. I think the thing that will be different about the next 5 years is we're not going to be caught off guard. We have a different capacity, but I think this is a privilege too. I quote Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart says, "Pressure is a privilege."
Never heard
right? Like now with all that God's done, what I feel is not a pressure to grow or anything. What I feel is a pressure to steward what God's given us.
Yeah.
And so there's a level of just intentional discipleship and being sure that we are creating space for relationships and community, I have no doubt that we're going to keep reaching one more, because if we're not going to do that, let's close it up.
But we need to
got
let
some
Dustin
space.
speak this in a second.
Yeah.
But I think too, I don't, in the back of my mind, I'm guarded about the tendency of everything you just said's right, but the tendency we have of defining stewarding things well, of being the guy who got the talent and went and dug a hole.
And that guy was a bad steward.
I'm not.
Yeah.
We can't do that.
No.
That's not stewarding it
Yeah.
well. So it doesn't mean don't keep
That's right.
reinvesting and multiplying. But yes,
I actually think in this scenario, to steward well, it means to do what Jesus said to Peter when Peter, he says, "Who do you say that I am?" He says, "You're Jesus, the Son of the living God." He said, "You are right, and on this statement, I'll build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail."
Yeah.
How do you steward what God gives you in a church? Well, it's not investing it in the ground; it's investing it in the mission, so that you can keep going. Dustin, how's that sit on you? What is the next 5 years? You think? What are you excited about? What are you?
Yeah,
hopeful
I
for?
mean, I think about just that staff meeting. What's so crazy, and I would say even beautiful in that moment, like, was there like a little bit of uneasiness? For sure, but there was no one freaking out, because we knew God was doing something,
Right.
and we stepped into that. And I think we're at a season now where we're not complacent. We're kind of like, all right, things are going great, but there's still people that need Jesus.
Yep.
There's still, my neighbor still needs Jesus,
right.
whatever the case may be. And we're willing to do whatever it takes to reach that one more person. And so I think what excites me is the intentionality we've had over the last, couple years, especially with Deeper and now Encounter, is not this, to kind of speak to what you were saying, Wayne, of this perception that's like, oh, it's this big church or like a big concert, and they just care about filling up rooms, that we actually care about discipling people.
Yeah.
And we can only disciple so many people, us in the room and our staff, that it's going to take every single person at every single campus to disciple people.
Yeah.
And not just to show up on Sunday and to say, hey, feed me a good message, let me leave and go eat Mexican,
right.
and that's
sour
it.
and soak. That's
Yeah.
right. Sit, soak, and sour.
But I'm excited in the next 5 years, because I feel like our people are prepared.
Yeah.
They might not be 100% like, let's go, but I think a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And it is hey, we're going to be able to do so much more than you can possibly, imagine. Through God, He's already gone ahead of us, and there are going to be lives radically changed in the next 5 years that it's going to blow our minds in that. And I think it's going to take all of us. I think we're going to see people come out of their shell, people that are giving their life to Jesus, and God's using to start ministries and small groups and lead the way, even on a volunteer level.
I want to ask this, and Josh is new, and Dustin and I have been through several significant transitions at Upstate Church. The one constant actually at Upstate Church is change. Because we're always looking to steward what God's given us in the best possible way. But I am curious, if somebody walked into to Upstate Church for the first time on Sunday and they heard your message, at the end of your message, just kind of in a heartfelt moment, you said something to the effect of, I believe that we're in the biggest season of transition that we've ever been in the past 10 years.
Probably scared some people.
Yeah, and it scared me. No, I'm just kidding. But I think through that, and I want to nuance that a little bit before I ask the question. Think a little bit about what's happening right now. Multi-million-dollar building project that we went all in on for Five Forks that our people responded to. Haywood is in the process of relocating to a non-permanent facility. We just hired a new teaching pastor at Harrison Bridge. Lawrence just became a campus. This coming fall, we're going to send out, people may not even realize it based on Will's age and that he was in Anderson, a little bit removed. We're going to send one of the most significant staff members we have across the country to plant an autonomous church.
You mean it won't be a campus?
It's going to be Upstate Church Phoenix.
There are people who thought that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
But cause that's not even everything, but that's a taste of some of the transition that I told Haywood, like when you said that, I felt that in my bones a little bit, What makes this season of transition different than other seasons?
Yeah.
And how do we need to respond as a church to be faithful moving forward?
I don't know if this will make sense to everybody. So like 2015, if I can back it all the way up to that, that's the most significant season of transition in the life of our church since I've been here.
Because you came. That's when you came.
Well, it's when I came, and I mean, I think everybody who was here then would definitely acknowledge, or maybe people who were here who aren't here now would acknowledge.
Also
that was also an important demographic.
Leave your comments in the.
But I'm just saying, that was a lot of change fast.
Yeah.
I mean, and it wasn't just me. I mean, we hired people like Wes, Pat, Josh, Emily, every significant ministry role. Then Dustin and Dallas. Everybody was casting new vision at one time.
Yeah.
Our church literally, without like necessarily even publicly saying it, was reinventing itself at one moment. And we started that with an unstuck group consultation, going through mission, vision, values, discovering who we are. And my task as a leader was just literally to say, I took the results of all of that from both staff and lay people. It was half and half. I don't know if everybody knew that back then. But I mean, we took the results and I led strong through toward the direction that we had all collectively agreed on. It wasn't Wayne's magic ideas. It was God's vision that he gave his people. And I really dug into my knowledge and practiced my ability to lead strategically. That's really so, and then yielding to the Holy Spirit. All that was significant. Here's the thing that made that seem less to me. I know everybody else might have been like, but it was mainly behind the scenes infrastructure for like 2.5, 3 years.
Oh, yeah.
So most people didn't feel it until year 3.
Right.
So when you guys came in 2017, 2018, that's when, I don't know if y'all feel like this is the way it was, everything was changing on the surface. Like people, it was just a lot at one time. And that was when, it was one of those times where even financially, there's been a couple of times in 10 years where we've kind of been around, what the other was probably that meeting. When we've been going around a curve and if it weren't for the guardrails.
That's right.
Yeah.
And because very admittedly, we pushed the chips in to use a bad illustration. We go all in.
Why is that a bit? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
We don't, if we think God's leading us, we do it.
That's right.
And so we have done that. This is different. To me, the reason this is different is we're not navigating something that's as easily to see. It's not like we can sit around in a consultation room and get a whiteboard out. Josh does this for churches all the time. We can't really just like discover a new mission, vision, values. We got that. It's about scale. It's about the number of campuses, locations we have. It's about the affordability of those, the efficiency of those. It's about things we've never had to think about and worry about and be concentrated about. At the same time, we do have 2 teaching pastors. First time in 10 years. We've had teaching pastors leave. God's led them 2 different places. So in 3 months, we announced 2 teaching pastors. That's a volatile, vulnerable feeling. All of that's changing at one time. And it's kind of like if I were to put it, and then I'll land it. Like when I was, growing up as a kid, you grow, and I mean, like you can keep wearing the same pants, but you look like a dork,
right?
Because your pants legs are this high. You know what I'm saying? And you can keep trying to do it the way you did it,
right?
But
I felt bullied. I'm kidding.
Can you black that out where he pulled his pants
to
leg?
wear the same clothes you wore before, but they really don't fit well. I used Campbell Jane's little car as an illustration.
That was a golden illustration.
Yeah.
I think we as a church, if we're not careful, not just us, all churches, can easily just think, man, I'm so emotionally connected to this. I don't want to change it. I'd like to stay where I'm at. And my whole thing is, lack of a better way of saying it, we're having to change again. And the harder part for me is I can't articulate it as well. It's not simple. It's much more complex to explain. And so here's what we need to know. We're not changing our convictions, our theology. We're not changing the care that we're going to give people. But I guess I hope that answered the question.
No, I think it's good. I think that statement, bigger transition than we've ever seen before, would have hit new people in a strange way. And it also would have hit people who've been here for 10 years and been like, well, bigger change we've ever seen before. Like I've been here for 10 years and I've been in 3 different buildings, you know?
Here's the thing. I think if we were to stay where we are, this is probably the best way to articulate it. If we were to stay where we are, keep doing what we're doing, I don't think it would be a lot of massive change. And I think we could be satisfied, complacent, keep serving Jesus, love the Lord. But if we want to keep reaching lost people, multiplying disciples, if we want to keep shining light in darkness, we can't keep doing exactly what we're doing. We got to change.
Right.
some
Oh, yeah.
things. Anyway, and a lot of that's building a brand new building in 5-4. That's
for
a
sure.
massive
First time thing,
yeah.
You closed with just encouraging people to give their gifts back. And I want to, maybe Dustin, you're our next steps pastor. Josh, if you want to add anything to this, you can. But I'll tell
What
you.
you're saying is if it's not effective, it's Dustin.
It's my fault.
Before you ask that question, just on another note on Sunday's message, like the moment you just gently push that car off the screen,
It was a boss move.
That was
It
a
was
boss
smooth.
move, bro.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was worried he pushed it a little too hard. I was like, what's it about to hit?
No.
I was like, oh no.
It was
Yeah.
like it's like
It was
you
like,
practiced it 100 times.
It
And I
was,
mean, it was
boss.
just like gentle, and
I'm
you
done
didn't
with
even
this.
you didn't even look back. You know, like
It's like Tiger Woods sinking a putt, but
That's
like walking
exactly-
off before it goes
it
in
was-
the hole.
Yeah, it was like
Exactly
Steph
what it
Curry
was.
hitting a three, and he doesn't even see it go in because he's halfway down the court already. It was
So
that
y'all
kind
have
of.
now compared me to Tiger Woods and Steph Curry.
We got to say
Well,
something. Hey, somebody say something mean about him real quick.
yeah.
the
I was thinking
athletic
about a
build.
dude I watched. I was thinking about a dude I watched bowl down here at Golden Lanes.
Maybe John Daly, not Tiger Woods. Is that John
No,
Daly?
no, that's not that.
Bro,
that
did you just compare yourself to John Daly?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Hey, John Daly is truly a legend, by the way.
Yes, he is.
What did he say?
Dustin, next-
Yeah,
Nicotine
whatever.
and creatine nicotine and caffeine makes
Yeah.
protein. That's John Daly for you.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I want to ask you this question. I want to frame it in a story, though. I got an email Sunday afternoon and Sunday night, just encouragement, but to give some context for it. There is a family who's been coming to Upstate Church, Haywood, maybe 3 months at this point. Not long. They came this semester. They actually did their first day at Upstate Church was at the Upstate Church Greenville campus. They had spent the new year in Greenville, and they saw that church and they went, and so they tried Haywood out the next week. And they got plugged in, small group, that kind of thing. But she just said, at the end where she was so encouraged because they finally felt like they were in a place where they could truly use the gifts that God had given them. Awesome. And I do believe part of the transition that will be felt by others is that you can grow a church on the efforts of the staff to a certain point. I really believe that's true. Like you can get an all-star preacher, which we've got a lot of great preachers. You can get all-star people behind the scenes with great capacity, and their capacity can carry it to a point. But
There's always a lid.
There's a lid even with that.
Yep.
I think part of the big transition that we're coming to, and I really want people to hear this and think about it and process this, because this is going to be a big shift, I believe, is that we have reached the place where the staff capacity has maybe gone as far as we can. And now what we need is the participation of every member to be a part of the body, like you said, growing, building itself up in strength. And she was just saying, I'm so glad I can use my gift in a
awesome.
place where I can use the gifts. What we want is for everybody to feel that way.
Yeah.
So if you were offering people some next steps to how they can use their gifts, what would you give as a word of advice to people saying, man, I really want to use the gifts God's given me?
Well, I think two things, and we say this all the time, everyone could take a next step.
Yep.
So you should never get to a point in your life where you're just complacent and you're like, I've done everything, I'm good. Everyone has a next step to take. And so I think every single person across all of our locations, that they can be in the boat and say, hey, man, I love our church, I love the mission, I'm all for it. They need to start rowing, and we need to start rowing in the right direction. And it's just going to be incredible to see, because as people are taking those steps, you just never know how God's going to use that. The second thing is, I often hear this, and it just breaks my heart, that many people diminish themselves and how God can use them.
That's right.
I can't lead in kids. I'm not a theologian. I can't teach that way. I can't do that small group. I'm too busy. How about things like that? And we have to stop making excuses and really step up to the plate. And there are people that sit in our services every single week that are able to reach people that we can't reach. There are school teachers that are making a difference in their schools. Their sphere of influence is different than ours. There are business owners and whatever, fill in the blank. And it's going to take those people and to make disciples. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And so in that, there's all kind of different steps, whether it's connections. So being host team, like being a friendly face in the parking lot, holding a door, helping someone find a seat. We're starting some things that we're calling the shepherding team of praying for people. There's kind of a care arm to that of, hey, what do you need? And checking in on people to make sure that we're never big church, that big church feels small.
Yeah.
From production to worship to leading small groups to opening up their homes. All of those things are huge.
Yeah.
And so it's really, we gather as a church, but we need to scatter as well. And so it's going to take all of us. It's going to take every single one being a part of the team, getting off the bench and getting in the game.
What would you add to that, Josh?
Man, Pastor Wayne, I think one of the last things you had to say on Sunday was God's given you these gifts.
Yes.
Don't hold on to them. And I think about, like, we started out talking a little bit about people's perception of our church, like, oh man, we're just about gathering people up. But really, it's not what we want from people. It's what we want for people. Like,
That's right.
Like, the result might be that more people show up on a Sunday, but that's not the measure that tells us whether or not we're impacting things here in the Upstate. The measure that tells us, are people actually living on mission to change their world? And if they are engaging their community, engaging the people around them, and taking those next steps personally, all those other things are going to take care of itself. So, man, people stepping into that mission personally, like, that's the point, making disciples.
And I heard Joby Martin say a week or two ago about referring to first fruits, that we should give of our first fruits, but he applied it to not just giving. And really just that, if we just asked ourselves, if everybody watching this would ask ourselves a question, is God really first in your life? Everybody would want to say, Sunday school answer, yes. And we think if we verbally say yes, that means it's true. But like if you start asking yourself the question, aside from my job, is the ministry of my local church what gets the most of my time?
Right.
See, I feel like it's almost like tacked on to travel ball,
it's an accessory.
Whatever I'm doing in my kids' stuff. And I mean, like local church ministry, that actually should be, God should have the first place in your life in every area, not just your giving, but certainly your giving.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's a pretty convicting thing. I think I said it in the sermon, at least in the recorded version, that, the heart of that too, even ask yourself the question, is there any expense in your life that you are giving more to than God?
Yeah.
That's a convicting.
That's good.
That's a and that's Joby Martin. I mean, but that's what because I think gifts and serving the Lord in the church, that's all applicable to that.
Right.
The reason people say no is because they got other things that are first.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
And I think I was reminded, and I was challenged in this of, I think oftentimes we just become selfish.
Yeah.
And it's God's gifts of grace that he has bestowed upon us, and we become so selfish. So what ends up happening is we're actually robbing ourselves of the blessing that God wants to use us and be a part in. And so we miss out, and we're like, where's God? Or, I want God to use me like that person. And we're shooting ourselves in the foot because we're the ones that are selfish with our time, our talent, the gifts that God has given.
So working here,
his gifts to return them in glory.
Amen.
working here or coming to church here and being a part of denominational work, I was in a lot of different churches, over the weekends. And we weren't here every weekend. And that meant some things for my family. Like we weren't able to serve as much, and then we had some different circumstances that limited that. Well, now, we're in the same place every week. Our kids have been for the past 6 months. So we set our kids down a while back and we're like, hey, we're going to start serving at the church. And we realized our kids had to say, what does that mean? What does it mean? Because we've been in all,
Right.
They're totally accustomed to showing up at a church they've never met, going to a random kids ministry, and then tell me what they think about it. But they were like, what does that mean?
Secret shopper.
So our son Carson, you got Carson's a wild kid, man. We were like, hey, we want you to serve, and we got this kid coming to our 11:30 service. His name's Elijah. He's in a chair. He's non-communicative, but he loves the music, and he sits on the front row during the
love
music,
it.
and he just bounces up and down. And you think, man, well, that kid is wild. Does he even know what's going on in the room? And he absolutely knows, and he's tracking with the music. Man, Carson, that was his act of service, was to sign up to shadow
That's
that
awesome.
kid.
Wow.
To take, and because
See,
of
I love
his
it.
connection with Dawson and being able to take care of kids
Right.
with special needs, he had a knack to kind of give. So my 13-year-old son
That's
got
cool.
in the game and is
That's
serving
awesome,
that kid
man.
every week. Is really
And
cool.
that's really an example. That's what we need for sure of everybody on our staff.
Well, and I will say, because little shout out to our Haven ministry.
Come on.
Because that has been an increasingly a need across all of our campuses.
Yeah.
Because families that have kids with special needs, really, they struggle to get to service because they need some respite. And so we need volunteers,
Hey,
some
we're ready.
one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Listen, if you're out there, you have a special needs child or even an adult, like, we're ready.
Bring it.
We're ready. We're ready to figure out how to get you in.
Yeah.
And listen, I remember our first week we showed up, you said, how can we help you? And that little tiny room we're in, man, you couldn't get a wheelchair.
moved the
in there.
chairs, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you
Yeah.
move the chairs, you put a mat on the floor. Like, we have people, we are ready
That's
to
right.
serve you
Yeah.
if that's your situation.
Yeah,
For sure.
Hey, any last words you would just say to the church as we sign off for this semester of podcasts?
Man, hang on tight. That's, you know.
Let's get ready to go.
Yeah, let's do
We're
it.
not slowing down. I know for every now and then, and I've been, obviously conversation after conversation here and there, from time to time, people would be like, and we're in one of those seasons, so I don't want to scare anybody, but like, are we gonna pump the brakes? We're gonna slow down, and I think God tells you when it's time.
Yeah.
And we're in those one of those recalibration transitional. I've been saying we've been rearing back, but we're about to throw heat, man.
That's right.
We're about to throw heat. We're gonna get back in the game, and it ain't like we're stopping.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think the planning and the strategy and all that is going to get to a point, and the buildings are going to be done, and transitional movement for Haywood. All of we had a lot of things in flux that in the coming months are going to be settled. And
Yeah.
stable and secure. And man, we're about to take off.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Here's my invitation to everybody watching. The state of the church is strong, but would you just be really intentional to pray for us and to keep praying for us, and to pray that what God's done over the last 5 years will be only the beginning of what He's going to do over the next 5 years.
And if he's done what he's done without you, can you imagine what he would do
That's good.
That's good.
with
Yep.
you?
Take a
Until
step.
next season, you guys charge on.
Yeah, buddy.
Charge on.